Are you going to play ball or are you not? Colleges are increasingly voting, well, no. The Detroit Free Press today reporting that the Big 10 conference, well, it's cancelled its football season. Meantime, uncertainty around college sports is prompting renewed debate of the fairness of the NCAA's standardized testing requirements. Scarlet Fu is standing by with a major voice in college sports.
That's right. Thank you so much, Caroline. In today's Bloomberg Equality, our ongoing conversation about the bottom line impact of diversity, I want to welcome Tommy Amaker. He is Harvard University men's basketball head coach and co-chair of the NABC Committee on Racial Reconciliation. And Tommy, before we get to your proposal to eliminate the SAT and ACT for player eligibility, I want to ask you about the state of college sports because the Ivy League shut down the fall sports season back in July. Can you give us an idea on the thinking on whether winter sports can go ahead, can take place, or at least a timeline for that kind of decision?
Well, Scarlett, first of all, thank you so much for having me and for having us as college basketball coaches to be a part of Bloomberg TV. We're proud to have an opportunity to represent our association, and being an Ivy League basketball coach and member of the Harvard University campus community, we're always going to trust and follow, the principles and our people with the guidelines of the health experts. And so I'm not sure where that's going to lead us going forward, but we certainly have made, we think, is a sound and prudent decision going into this fall.
Certainly. Just last week, the Big 10 unveiled its plans to play the 2020 season, but players ended up forming their own group to express their concerns. And they said that their input's crucial because they are primary stakeholders in the business of college sports. I'm curious, what kind of input have you gotten from Harvard basketball players on the prospect of playing this season?
Well, I think as a former player myself, and certainly coaching kids from the ages of 18 to 22, their thoughts and ideas, and rightly so and fairly so, are certainly on the thought and aspect of wanting to play. Certainly understand that from a variety of players and thoughts around the country with whatever sport it may be. But I do think it's important that we as educators and as teachers, prior to being a coach, we think of ourselves as educators and teachers first. I think it's important that we are able to, take all the information in. We certainly have the health experts. We certainly have individuals that have the best interest for the kids at heart. And we need to trust the leadership that we have. And we certainly do that here at Harvard with our president and certainly in the Ivy League with our executive director.
All right, I hear you on that. Clearly, we are in extraordinary times because we have a public health crisis. We also have an inequality crisis. And to address the latter, the National Association of College Basketball Coaches is calling for the elimination of using standardized tests to determine athletes' eligibility. Isn't that already happening right now, given that a lot of schools have gone test optional for current high school seniors who are applying?
Well, Scarlett, you would think so, right? You would think that so many institutions around the country, over 1,000 four-year colleges and universities, have made it absolutely either optional or have eliminated it. And so we are proposing that, given that that's what is happening with so many other universities and colleges around the country that are not making it a requirement for gaining admission to those various institutions, we think the NCAA, with compassionate leadership, given where we are with the COVID-19, we just think it's the right time and where we are in our country to eliminate this long-standing policy and procedure of racial bias as opposed in terms of representing of a initial eligibility requirement for college basketball. And so we think it's the right thing, and we certainly think it's the right time.
Any response from the NCAA to your proposal?
We are in talks. We are in discussions with this, and we think that it's going to have a positive effect on the compassionate leadership of the NCAA. We think this is something that they want to take very much under consideration to look at seeing how this can impact the rest of our sport going forward, and if this is the right thing that we need to do, which we believe it is.
Well, you have a little bit of an experiment right now. I wonder how the removal of the test requirement, at least for fall 2021, is affecting the recruiting of student athletes.
Well, you hit something there that's very sensitive, and certainly with COVID-19 affecting all aspects of our normal lives, and this has certainly affected disproportionately has affected communities of color. And so we really believe it, as you just touched on, how this is affecting kids trying to go through the process of taking the test to be accepted into, various institutions, then to take the test and also to be eligible for college, basketball playing. So we just think it's the right time to maybe take a different look at this, to eliminate this. And as we said before, making sure that we are having compassionate leadership in a moment of crisis in the public health situation that we're finding ourselves in.
Tommy, is your concern with the SAT and ACT in particular, or all standardized tests? And I ask because the University of California voted to stop using those exams in admissions because obviously students from lower income families are disadvantaged, just as you had said. But UC says it will eventually replace them with an admissions test that will be developed by its own faculty. So it will replace it with some kind of standardized exam. What is your confidence that another admission test or a new admission test would be more fair?
Well, I do think, Scarlett, as we've been told a lot through my time as a player playing for Coach K at Duke many moons ago, that first things first. And we certainly believe that the ACT and the SAT, is a standardized test that needs to be eliminated at this moment in time. It certainly correlates with the test results correlate with low-income students, with low-income families, I should say, with parental education in terms of the families that the kids would come from, and also with race. And so we're trying to make sure that the lane that we're in right now with the NABC and the Committee on Racial Reconciliation, we're trying to introduce and have initiatives and proposals that are going to make sure that we are looking at educational inequality. And we think this is one of the ones right now that we want to address. There's another one as well that we feel is really important to address, having more awareness and understanding and educational opportunities to learn African or Black history. We think that's one of the reasons we're in a state where we are right now. We're looking at that as maybe as a requirement for students in high school and or college for graduation, to make sure that they've been taught the correct history and the truthful history of our country. So these are two proposals that we have in the wheelhouse, making sure that we're trying to address educational inequality.
Right, specific suggestions there in terms of making things more equitable. Final question to you, Tommy. The NBA season, we know, seems to be progressing pretty smoothly right now without any major COVID problems that have seemed to plague some of the other leagues, or at least that we know of right now. The players and teams are in bubbles. Do you think that that's something that can be accomplished in any way at the college level?
Scarlett, I would be hesitant to try to answer these types of questions outside of, I would want for us as coaches, for us as teachers and as educators, to make sure that we follow the science, that we're going to listen to the health experts, that have this information, that are the voices that we should all adhere to. Certainly the NBA has done a magnificent job of how they have gone about to reopen, their game, their season, and their business and their product. It seems to be that having it in the bubble, as you said, seems to be the most prudent and smart way of doing this.
Right.
But certainly thinking that we can do that in college sports, it would probably be really unlikely to think that would be possible.